This is a special episode of Startup Podcast in partnership with Philippine Startup Week 2021. For this episode, we are very fortunate to have a conversation with the head of marketing and communications at IdeaSpace Philippines and QBO Innovation Hub, Eunice Braga. We will talk about this big, exciting event that's happening next week, the Philippines' largest 5-day virtual startup conference, Philippine Startup Week. So, hello, Eunice. Thank you very much for spending some time with us in this podcast, especially to share about this upcoming event.
Hi everyone. So nice to be here on Startup Podcast. Thank you, Yanni, for inviting me and really wanting to do this episode on Philippine Startup Week.
Okay, so let's start. So, sagutin natin ang tanong. So, ano ang Philippine Startup Week?
So Philippine Startup Week is an annual conference organized by the Department of Science and Technology, the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Information and Communications Technology, and QBO Innovation Hub. So the goal is really to have this week-long event where people from different walks of life and also from different parts of the Philippine startup ecosystem and beyond can get together and really talk about trends, developments that are happening in the local startup scene.
Yeah, I think ang keyword nga dun is yung coming together. I think very important, especially for the
Yes.
startup ecosystem, yung collaboration. Kasi kumbaga, if you're a startup founder or a student, maybe you have an idea, you need and you want maybe to collaborate with others. Kasi that's how you bring your idea into reality, right?
Yes, that's true. And we're really fortunate that the Philippine startup ecosystem is like a very collaborative community. So it felt natural to just have this event and create this avenue for more people to first learn about the Philippine startup ecosystem. Second, work with the startups in the country. And then also, for those that are looking to invest, to give them an opportunity to get to know the up-and-coming startups in the Philippine startup ecosystem.
Yeah, all right. And actually, there are 5 tracks in this event, in this 5-week, a 5-day startup conference. So there's discover, develop,
Yes.
collaborate, invest, and showcase. So can we know more about this? Like, why are 5 tracks? Ano ba yung pinagkaiba nila?
Sure. So Discover is really for education and raising awareness on technopreneurship. So, for example, if it's your first time hearing about startups, for example, gumagamit ka ng Kumu as a content creator or use Investa to study stocks and trading, and you're curious, oh nga no, like paano nabuo sina Kumu, sina Investa, like you probably want to attend the events under the Discover track. Develop naman is really providing resources and information to businesses. So whether it's tech startups, SMEs, or larger companies, so it's education for the business side of things. Collaborate is really exploring synergies across sectors. So dito mo most likely makikita yung mga sessions on corporate startup partnership we've done in last year's conference. Invest, of course, is for events that want to link up startups with potential investors, regardless of whether they come from the government, venture firms, or even angel investors. And then Showcase naman really highlights the accomplishments and the developments that are happening within these various startups. So talagang intentional si Philippine Startup Week in that there is an event for people regardless of whether you're new to startups, you're already a founder, or you're growing and scaling and already raising money and looking for other resources.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting kasi yun nga, whether you're a student, founder na starting pa lang, even maybe 5 years ka na, or even if you're an investor. I mean, there's really everything for you in this conference. So now, can you know more about the team? Kasi yung team is Beyond Recovery, Filipino Startups Redefining Opportunity. So bakit ito yung naging team na nitong upcoming conference?
Yeah, I think we're really looking beyond like the COVID-19 pandemic, and parang ano ba yung economy and society that we really want to develop. And we've seen the growth of startups these past few years. I really think that they could play a very important role, not just in the recovery process from COVID-19, but in really building a better Philippines. So ultimately, the other reason also why we wanted to focus on redefining opportunity, because I think the past year has shown that people can create careers, work from home. And I think the startup space or the startup ecosystem is one of those industries or spaces where people can really carve out a career, make money, find themselves in leadership roles, even in the Philippines. So ultimately, hopefully, if we continue to invest in the Philippine startup ecosystem, we will create a future where one, hindi na kailangan umalis ng mga tao ng Pilipinas to find not only a high-paying job but very meaningful careers. I'm always struck by the story that Roland Ross has talked about when it comes to Kumu, na parang just a few years back, they were a team of less than 20, maybe even less than 10 people. And now they employ hundreds. And that change just happened in a matter of like 2 to 3 years. So when it comes to talent, I don't think Filipinos lack for talent, but we really want and really hope that the Philippine startup ecosystem will be an engine of opportunity for more Filipinos. Parang not just Filipinos in like urban cities, but also in rural areas and Filipinos abroad. So yeah, so it's really, we want the startup scene to be an engine of recovery and of opportunity and of like truly inclusive growth and development. And I think there's no better time to set that vision than now when we're starting to parang absorb everything that we've learned over the past year or so, year and a half, almost 2 years na actually, dealing with the pandemic. And parang I think industries and different sectors realizing na, oh, things can be different pala and we can always create things and reshape things for the better. So yeah, so hopefully this is the start of a longer conversation and a longer engagement with the startup ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kasi I think itong pandemic nga, parang nagbago talaga yung buong mundo. I mean, ang napakalaki
Yes.
bago. And somehow, it can be a reflection din siguro ng ating country. Like, ano ba yung mga dapat nating baguhin? I mean, ano ba yung dapat nating baguhin with regards to workplace, with regards to the overall economy. And then, pinamagandang na nangyayari with the startups now is they grow and then they create industries. They provide more jobs actually. Parang it's a growth multiplier effect. So I mean, it can boost overall economy. I think that's really what I like best about what's happening right now, and especially what you're doing in QBO, in IdeaSpace, and especially in this conference. So just for some picture, kasi most of the listeners of this podcast are actually students and youth, newbies. So I just want them to feel or to know, like, if I'm a student nga, or if I'm a newbie, startup founder, or a young entrepreneur, so bakit ako punta sa conference na to? Like, ano ba talaga yung mapapala ko?
I mean, una sa lahat, sa mga estudyante, sana ipadala niyo tong or i-share niyo tong video na to sa mga prof niyo kasi sobrang jam-packed ng learning activities yung buong week ng Philippine Startup Week. So actually, like, different topics yung kino-cover namin across the different days. So there will be summits that are organized by DOST, DTI, and DICT. And then there are also over 50 community events organized by different organizations. Yung iba sa kanila startups, yung iba incubators and accelerators, yung iba universities. So ang dami talagang pwedeng matutunan. So like some of the things that you can actually attend, or some of the events that you can attend for this year's conference would be sessions on like how to use neuroscience to generate ideas, or how to improve your pitches by using or leveraging the power of storytelling. And then you also have topics focusing on like the future of Philippine retail and e-commerce. So para sa mga SMEs natin, syempre very helpful yan kasi makakuha kayo ng information on trends and on developments para makapag keep up tayo sa nangyayari in general sa ating paligid, no? Kasi nakikita na natin yung shift na parang mas marami ng taong gumagamit ng mobile payments, for example, or namimili ng mga bagay online, whether it's via Facebook or social media or via apps. Ganyan. So, syempre, kailangan continuously natin i-update yung knowledge natin. So, and then, there are also sessions on operations and access to finance, which I think would be very helpful for students or new startup founders who are trying to figure out, if I want to look for money or want to look for an investor, saan ako pwedeng pumunta, kanino ako pwedeng mag-pitch ng aking startup or ng aking idea. We also have a number of sessions on social entrepreneurship, which may be of interest to people who want to start businesses na, yes, I want to earn, but also I want to be able to contribute to my community or to my sector. Since maraming students nga nakikinig ito, there's actually a community event by DICT, which is called Youth in Tech, Building Young Tech Entrepreneurs, which is happening as part of Philippine Startup Week. And then there's also another event called Exploring the Elements of Startup Success. So these are very like introductory events na if you're new, if you want to find out about startups, or if you have these questions nga, ano ba yung startup, ano bang ginagawa sa startup, anong pinagkakaiba ng tech startup sa ibang klase ng business. These are just some of the events that you can attend. And yun nga, take note, this is like happening for 5 days. So hindi kayo mauubusan ng bagong bagay na matututunan.
And by the way, so this is 5-day virtual conference. So
yes.
Like paano ba mangyayari to? Like yung events ba ay record? I mean, can we watch them ba in another time, or I mean, how will this happen basically as a virtual online event?
Yes. So actually, when you get your ticket, so visit Philippine Startup phstartupweek.com, so you can get your tickets from that website, and then that will take you to the Excel events platform, which is where you get your ticket. So make sure na na-complete niyo yung profile nyo, and you can actually bookmark which events you want to attend, so you're reminded. But the good thing is, kunwari na-miss nyo yung isang event, you can definitely rewatch that event as well. And we will also make the talks available beyond November 19th. But parang yung incentive naman, or like yung reason kung bakit dapat umattend kayo on the 5 days of the conference, is because we're also giving away various prizes from GCs to gadgets. And how we're doing it is really through active participation. So you rack up points whenever you interact or you consume content, or you watch nga the events. So hopefully we make it a bit more fun for people, kasi syempre alam din natin na almost 2 years na tayo online first. And minsan nakakapagod ang mga online events. So we want to make sure na it's fun for people and there's an incentive for them to really actively participate.
Yeah, I think ang exciting nung gamification part kumbaga nitong content.
Yes.
So, and ayun nga, so we said nga na this is actually a great learning opportunity. So actually, hopefully, maybe ako rin, since I teach now in UP, maybe I can give incentives to my students. Kasi, I mean, very connected naman to like in what I teach in UP. So yeah, maybe some of our professors can give incentives or basically just to encourage them, the students, to attend this conference, kasi I'm sure it's really a very great learning opportunity. So ulitin lang natin yung main organizations behind this big event. So who are the 4 main organizations, and why did they really start this conference?
Yes, so it's the Department of Science and Technology the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Information and Communications Technology, and QBO Innovation Hub. So actually, even before Philippine Startup Week was born, we've been working with each other in different capacities. So QBO has been working with DTI. Actually, our office is housed within DTI. Our Hill Puyat office is housed within DTI. So we've been working with them closely. DOST, we've also been working with them for the Technology Business Incubators 4.0 program, DICT as well for projects like ecosystem mapping. So we've been collaborating on different projects for the Philippine startup ecosystem. And then, of course, parang yung idea of, hey, why don't we create like an avenue or a space for the community to get together, for people who are new to startups to learn more about the startup ecosystem, and then also to forge partnerships, whether it's between corporations and startups or even startups and the government. And then Philippine Startup was born. And yeah, so it's really a space for people to get together, learn more about the startup scene, and really collaborate with each other. Sa mga normal events namin sa Kubo, like mayroon kami mga startup founders na nagkukwento sa amin na, nakahanap ako ng investor dahil umattend ako sa isang networking event nyo, or parang I found like interns because of these different programs that you've set up. And we hope that Philippine Startup Week is that for more people. I think we're getting a lot of attention now, especially with the recent races ng mga startups natin, which I think is parang further fueling yung momentum ng ating startup ecosystem, and parang giving people a lot of optimism na, hey, we're already on the up and continuing to grow. So yun. So and I think another good reason for students to attend is, especially for those that are looking for internships, startups do look for internships year-round, and ang daming magagandang experiences na pwede nyong makuha working with startups. So it's a good opportunity to see kung anong startups yung out there where you could potentially find internships, maybe even potential jobs once you graduate. The good thing about the startup scene is that it's not very like hierarchical. Like you don't have to graduate from like top whatever university or be an honor student or whatever. A lot of startups really value things like curiosity, the willingness to work hard, the willingness to learn. So parang kahit sabihin mo, ay wala akong experience in the industry that you're working at, pero I'm willing to learn through this internship. That's something that's very accepted and encouraged in the startup scene. So it's, I think, ultimately a good, I think the startup ecosystem is also ultimately a good contribution to like Filipino culture in that regard, na parang hindi mo kailangan to fit like all of these boxes or certain backgrounds to be part of it. Kasi yes, kunwari, in urban cities, there are a lot of startup founders working on different solutions, but in a lot of places across the Philippines, Cebu, Baguio, Davao, Naga, CDO, there are a lot of growing startup ecosystems. And nakikita na rin ng business community and even ng mga LGUs yung value of working with startups. So yun, so there's really so much to be excited about.
Yeah, I think ang very important nga dito is yung startup ecosystem is on the growth stage, paangat.
Yes, paangat siya talaga.
Ang mahalagang culture or parang trait na to belong and to join this ecosystem is yung growth din, yung acceptance mo ng growth and yung willingness mo to grow. And speaking of that, so Philippine Startup Week is on its 3rd year, right? So
yes, 3rd year na.
So like ano ba yung nangyari nung last year, and what can we expect really to happen in this 2021 version of Philippine Startup Week?
Yes. So the 2020 version is actually the first time that we did the conference na 100% virtual because of the pandemic. And then of course this is the 2nd year and we're still holding it virtual. I think the difference is really compared to last year. We're going to be hearing a lot from like the people who've raised funding or grown a lot over the past year. So hopefully that will give a lot of startups and SMEs and interested entrepreneurs some inspiration and really tips and tricks on how they can also continue to grow even while we're going through this crisis. And then also, we've also gotten a lot of community events targeted to students, SMEs, and like young professionals. So it's really bringing more people into the startup space. I think as the years passed by, parang pa-open yung conference to more people. I think
Nag-grow
the
din
first
yung
conference was
mga-
definitely very focused on like the community and like really just getting people together. And the 2019 conference, which was the first one, was actually where in-announce nga yung Innovative Startup Act.
Yeah.
So as the years go by, like we're also seeing like the progression of like, okay, may Innovative Startup Act, it was already signed into law. Parang how are we seeing it implemented? So I think you're also going to hear a lot about that. We're going to be talking about the Startup Venture Fund,
Yeah.
which hopefully will provide more startups across the Philippines with access to funding. Among other things, you also hear updates about the Technology Business Incubator Program by DOST, which has set up incubators in different colleges and universities across the country. I know there's one in UP. so maraming balita actually. And then of course DICT is also talking about things like the Philippine Startup Challenge, which they've organized among other topics related to setting up and improving connectivity across the country and all of these things. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure we also have a session on like gaming and NFTs. So hindi kami hindi kami shy to say like there's really something for everyone for this year's conference.
Yeah, so I really think there's something really for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean even anong industry, like even anong preference mo, even anong affinity mo, even anong likes mo, anong interests mo. Yeah, so I really think it's a very exciting conference next week. We're so happy
Yes.
also that we are joining Startup Podcast.
Yes.
So maybe just to end this interview and this conversation. So overall, ano ba yung why do you want really, or why do the main organizations really want to uplift the startup industry in the Philippines, and like how do you want people ba talaga to be inspired and to be motivated to join this industry and this ecosystem?
Yeah. I think in 3 words, what I will say is, it's our time. Etong excitement na to, nakita natin to sa Singapore, and then in Malaysia, and then in Vietnam. And now we're seeing it here in the Philippines. So the time has come for people to be really, really excited about the startup ecosystem because we're seeing the growth. We're seeing founders from different backgrounds, people who came home to the Philippines from other countries to start their startups here. Filipinos born and raised here in the country, starting their own startup businesses and starting to grow and expand. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about it. I think the foundation also has been laid out na for long-term success. So all of these incubators that are being set up, different programs, whether it's by the government or by the private sector, we're really starting to see a lot of interest. Also on the corporate side of things, you're also starting to see more corporations, larger corporations, conglomerates start to engage startups. So when that's happening, parang mo na talaga yung moment. And like our goal is really parang to make people realize that it's possible to happen, but it's possible to create it here. It's possible to create a successful, thriving ecosystem in this country. But it can't just be done by like these four organizers and the startups that are already born. Para this will only be made possible if we all invest in it and we all work together and we all create opportunities for each other. So ultimately, parang this is something that we hope to work together with the rest of the country. You know, we want to work on this with the rest of the country. It's the only way that we will really fulfill the potential of the Philippine startup ecosystem.
Yeah, that's really amazing and that's really inspiring. I'm really excited for next week's conference. So let's just reiterate. So if people, if students, if anyone want to attend or know more about Philippine Startup Week, so what should they do? Where can they find more information?
Yes, you can find more information on our website. It's phstartupweek.com. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. So just search Philippine Startup Week 2021 on Facebook and then Philippine Startup Week on LinkedIn. So we're uploading the schedules from day 1 to 5 this week, as well as our very, very talented, esteemed list of speakers. So many people to look forward to. So we hope that you can sign up. We will be accepting like sign ups like even throughout like next week. So just make sure that you get your ticket. The tickets are free, 100% free. Hindi po kami nagpapabayad. We just have VIP tickets for some of our partners, but for the general public, it's 100% free. Also, I don't want to miss out. I also want to mention that another highlight for this year's conference is the fact that we do have a job fair online. So we do have a virtual job fair. So it's a good opportunity to find internships or maybe your new job even. So please join us. Again, it's phstartupweek.com, Philippine Startup Week 2021 on Facebook, and Philippine Startup Week on LinkedIn.
Okay, this is very exciting. I'm very excited na actually for next week. Napakaraming events and speaks.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really sure this will be a successful event on its third run and people can really learn, collaborate, and really get something out of it. So I hope our listeners and more people will attend the conference next week. Thank you, Eunice, for sharing with us about this upcoming Philippine Startup Week 2021. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you, Yanni.